Hello, everybody. So my name is Christopher Moreno, or as some of the students know me as Mr. Moreno. Here today with a few of our esteemed East Whittier Instrumental Music Program Foundation members, as well as Mrs. Carnahan. Here today to talk about a little bit about the House of Horror and some background about the House of Horror, as well as some maybe insights that maybe you didn't know about how the House of Horror was built, how it got started, the planning process, as well as a future event that's going to be occurring within the next month that I think all of you will find really awesome. So ladies, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourselves, starting with Mrs. Carnahan.
Hi, Debbie Carnahan. Nice to see you.
Am I going? Hi, Suzanne Ross.
Cassie Stiles.
And I'm Cindy Teets.
Awesome. So I guess this question is kind of for anybody who would like to answer. My first question is how did the Harvest Festival / House of Horror come about?
That's me. Okay. Well, we had to think outside the box. So, just trying to figure at the time, 11 years ago, we just didn't, nobody was doing haunted houses or House of Horror, harvest festivals. So we were trying to think of a big fundraiser that we could do, and that's how it started. And then the design took over. Cindy.
All you did was turn off your video. Turn your video back on. There you go.
Okay. So back in 2010 is when we started the first HOH and Harvest Festival. And it was my son's 6th grade year. And we were trying to come up with a fundraiser. And Mrs. Carnahan kind of gave us a couple of options. One was being a haunted house. One was a Halloween dance. And I think there was one other item. So at that point, I'm an interior designer, and I said, well, I make beautiful homes. Why not make an ugly home? So I took the job on. So from there, definitely it was limited parent help. So we begged and pleaded anybody to come on board. But that's basically how we got started. We had, I designed and built the same walls from 10 years ago that are still standing. My cabinet guy came in. He goes, I can make walls for you. It was just sort of a homegrown development of making a house. So from there, I can't even tell you, we begged and pleaded anybody to take a room on. So when I first designed it, I think we had 6 rooms and
5, I think.
Maybe 5 hallways. And that's how we just got started.
Now you said you kind of begged and pleaded for people to join. About how many people do you think, or how many volunteers did you have the first year?
Your first year?
That is a good question, because
Well, the kids are always available.
yes, the kids were available, but we had to get the parents. And since I was a new parent, I didn't really know a whole lot of people. So I grabbed other 6th grade parents that I knew, and we just made it happen. But the difference was we had one day to set this whole room up in the gym because the PE teacher, remember? The PE teacher, this was kind of a new development for everybody, and we didn't really have it planned out that well. It was kind of by the seat of our pants. So we had one day to
To
put
build
all
it.
these rooms.
Yeah.
It was pretty amazing.
It was awesome.
Yeah, that's really awesome. And was there at this time, was there any other like local schools or anybody else doing something similar at this time, or was this kind of like
No.
revolutionary idea?
No,
So
no.
okay,
I can see me, but I can't see anything.
so definitely you guys were pioneers. Okay, that's awesome.
We were the pioneers.
I like that.
At 10 o'clock at night, I'll tell
I
you,
can't turn my sound off.
because I'm sure you know, as parents, they signed up and they were willing to come and we'll help, we'll build, we'll do everything, and then nobody shows up. So at 10 o'clock at night, I'm in a warehouse stapling plastic to the walls because there's nobody else
In the
there.
gym. We were in the gym.
No, I did this. No, to the walls of the walls I made.
So Cindy, so you've been there about 11 years, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Cassie, you want to talk a little bit about how many years you've been a part of the House of Horror and kind of what your role's been since then, since you started?
Okay, thanks, Chris. Yes, so I started the very next year after the first year. And at this point, so that was 10 years ago, it was a little bit more organized because I remember being very impressed. And we met at one of the parents' home, and there was a plan, there was a map, and everybody split up into groups. And that's where I met Suzanne and Cindy, and that was my daughter's 6th grade year. And right away felt very excited about the group. Everybody had a lot of energy, and we had a lot of fun. And I started with a room with Suzanne. We co-sponsored a room. We had a medical room, and we'll never forget that we had the great idea of putting pig parts in jars to look really gruesome and real. And about 3 days after we set up, it started really smelling ugly, which brought a little bit more perspective to the House of Horrors. And so that's when we started 10 years ago. And then the next year we did an insane asylum with an electric chair. That's where the electric chair started. And then the following year we did a condemned wood shop. And that was in 2013 when we had our first carpenter type person really help and build some props for us. And that's when we realized, wow, we could really take this to the next level with some big props and some big designs. So that was in 2013. And then in 2014, was it 2014, I took over as the chairperson. So I had a small room that year, zombie cage, and realized it was too much for me to coordinate a room and the entire house. And by that point, I wanted to say by 2014, I had about 200 volunteers. And by 2015, I just focused on just running the house and coordinating all the actors and all of the volunteers. So now we had a building crew, we had an electrician, we got smart, and
Actors, makeup.
actors and a makeup person. So we broke up all of the different areas so that we could be very effective. Suzanne?
I started with Cassie the 2nd year, my son's 6th grade year, and like the rest of us have done it every year since, dealing with both doing makeup, making our own scary people inside when we didn't have enough. Got a contact through a friend to get the bodies from a mannequin shop, which totally put us to another place because where we couldn't get actors in, we could use the body parts and make them look like they were real. I don't know, I've just done a lot.
Everything from climbing on the roof.
Yeah, climbing on the roof, putting up the tarp, putting the clown on the roof. Not a big fan of haunted houses, but one of the most fun things I think I've ever done. Not gonna lie.
Well, I mean, the haunted house, the House of Horrors definitely had a lot of success. And just kind of from what I'm hearing, it sounds like around the year like 2013 or 12 is when things really started to pick up, is when you actually started to have crews of people for electricians and just various committees to kind of get the ball rolling, right? Cassie, you brought up about the electric chair. You know, being a part of the House of Horrors for the past couple of years, I've seen the electric chair. It's been a part of the House of Horror, I know, for a long time. Can you explain a little bit about how we got a hold of a electric chair, and is it real?
I think it's a prop from a movie set. We had one of our volunteers who actually built that year the whole hallway, the school hallway, where we had the principal and the nurse's office, and it was, we had never done anything that professional, but he worked as a prop man on a movie set. So he actually brought that electric chair with him, and he used it in the hallway that year. And he just kind of let us have it on loan, and never took it back. So it kind of became our main prop. We kind of design around it, like where are we going to put the electric chair, and everybody wants, can I have it in my room, can I have it in my room? It's a big deal because it does look very scary and rusty and creepy, and it's really heavy, so we have to be very careful not to damage the gym floor, and we take all precautions, of course. And that's definitely one of those props that is dear to everyone.
Yeah, definitely. You're right. It is really heavy. I think it was one of the ones that helped bring it out this year or this past year, and I can attest that it's super heavy. Awesome. So I guess another question I have is, when does planning for the HOH and Harvest Festival usually begin?
Right, when we're already building it, people think of new things for the next year. They literally are already thinking about the next year before we finish the current year, for sure. And then I would say they start getting together in about June. They give themselves a couple months to rest, and then in June, it starts up.
Okay. So it's typically like you're working over the summer, like, kind of like what you said, you come up with ideas, probably as the House of Horrors happening, like, wait, we could do this next year. We could do this next year. And that kind of, I'm sure, fuels what might be happening in the following year, correct?
Yeah.
And I know before I got there, because I've only been a part of it for the past 2 years, I remember hearing that you guys would meet at Starbucks during the summer, like June, July, and have like planning sessions there. And that's when I believe people would start to take ownership of different rooms. I want to do this room. I want to do this room. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, the creative juices go, everybody meets up, talks about their ideas, puts them together, thinks about a theme, and then just help each other from there. It's always a group process. It's never one person. It's always everybody together, and it's like a family. Every year, we look forward to working with those people and creating new, scarier. How many kids can we scare this year? That's kind of one of our things.
Our motto.
To build each year, and which ones run out, how many run out, and we want to beat it every year.
Yeah, so it is really a community because we all help each other out, and everybody will have a list of needs, props that they would like to have in their rooms, and we all scramble looking for those props. Either we borrow them or find them on the street, and then we need a big truck and big muscles to go pick things up off the street. But it's funny because every year you seem to find what you need. It's like the universe is telling us, yes, you're doing this, you know?
Yeah, and actually, that's another question that I wanted to ask. So about the props, you kind of already answered it, Cassie, but maybe somebody else can expand upon that. How does it work with accessing or getting some of the props? I know if you want to explain, if somebody wants to explain kind of what we have in the bin, and also how else do we get some of the props that people want to use for their houses?
The bin?
The
bin.
ever-growing bin. Well, when Cassie and I first started, we have one bin that Mrs. Carnahan put some of her stuff in, the hospitality put some of their stuff in, and then the other half is for the House of Horror. And after that year, the second year, I think we kept trying to shove stuff in there, and we just couldn't anymore. So we acquired a full bin and filled it up, 3 years ago, 4 years ago?
I think it's 3. I think it's at least 3.
3 years ago. We just found an empty bin and just filled it up with everything we had. I think that was the House in the Woods or whatever. That was in, Cabin in the Woods 2016. Come on, Cabin in the Woods 2016. Because we needed a place to put the
cabin.
huge cabin that they made.
Got a little carried away. The heavy, huge cabin.
And that's the bin you're talking about. That's the one that's close to the teacher parking lot by Catalina, right? The main bin where everything.
That's the one we took over.
So that bin was just empty for like years, or?
There used to be other things in there, but
I think it was the
But we kind of moved them.
earthquake storage.
yeah, then we moved all the earthquake storage and stuff, but yeah, it was empty.
Well, it's not empty anymore. I can say that for sure. I think there's even like a boat from when you guys did Cabin in the Woods a while back.
Yeah, we have it
There's a boat
there.
there.
Hey,
Yeah.
I could use
Yeah,
it.
there's a boat in there. So if anybody, in the future, you guys want to use a boat, there's a boat.
Sorry, we're already talking about this year, what we can use that's in there. So there's a lot of stuff in there. Getting it out is going to be another thing.
Yeah, every year we tend to collect more and more props. We build them. A lot of the community members donate props to us. And so every year it's like, do we really need this? Do we really want to keep this? Because we're really trying to limit ourselves to that one bin.
Well, you have to consolidate, right? I'm sure some things get broken, right? And well,
Oh, yeah.
we got to get rid of this to make room for this, and people donate.
Yeah,
every
but
year,
the
I'm sure they
electric
get
chair's
stuff.
still there.
Yeah, the electric
Yep,
chair is
it's
not
still there.
And the cabin.
And the cabin.
And the cabin.
This is
Yep.
where we've kind of taken that apart.
Yeah.
Now, as the years have gone on, I know, like me being a part of it the past 2 years, I was part of the HOH core team. Was the core team something that just came about recently, or has that always kind of been there since the beginning?
We don't have a board.
We had our leads, last few years, we've had our leads, like our carpentry lead, our actor lead, and then all our leads for each of the rooms. I think the core group started last year.
Yeah, what happened when Cassie and I started, it was just a group of parents and everybody would volunteer for whatever they felt they were good at. And then Cassie and I went on the board, the foundation board, and one board member would oversee, which ended up being Cassie, because she was so good at it. So they would oversee everything and just divide it into sections. And everybody would be in charge of their own room and do whatever they wanted and brought to the table all their creativity. And then we would just help facilitate them to get whatever items we needed. Yeah.
It's always been a community event. You know,
Yeah.
everybody, the students, the alumni, the former parents, teachers, you know, everybody contributes. So it's been a big community East Whittier family event.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's just like divide and conquer, right? And just, I know being a part of it is just like seeing all the different skill sets that so many different people have. The parents, students, teachers that just have certain skills that I feel like just kind of they mesh together, and there's just like that synergy, and I mean, the product that gets put out. I mean, I don't think people realize, people that have not gone through the East Whittier House of Horror, I think probably don't realize like how involved and how detailed the sets are that are there. I know, just speaking from experience, before I even got involved with the House of Horror, this was back in, I think, 2016, when it was my first year teaching at East Whittier. And I remember at the schools I worked at before, we had to try to put together, well, not me, but other, like, people try to put together these little haunted houses. They were set up in a day, and, there's just plastic everywhere and nothing too scary. So I heard about East Whittier's haunted house. I was kind of, wasn't expecting much. I was like, oh, that's cool. They have a harvest festival, and there's like a haunted house, like, also within it. So my wife and I, we went through it, and the first time, and I think that was the year, I think that was Cabin in the Woods. I think that was my first year that I went through it.
I remember taking you backstage. You were blown away.
I think, well, no, you took me backstage the following year. Through the Baker Hotel is when he took me backstage. My first year there, I was like not expecting much. I went through it, and I was like, holy cow, like this is really good. Like this is like on par with like the professional haunts. Like the scare acting was great. The set design was great. Like it was legitimately like really, really well done. And I was surprised because, like I said, most times, most haunted houses that put on by schools are not very elaborate. And that's because, and I understandably, with budgets and stuff like that. So going through the haunted house at East Whittier, I was totally blown away. And then unfortunately the following year, I was not able to, I wasn't able to go through the haunted house during the prime time. Miss Carnahan was able to take me backstage in the morning because I was working at Knott's Scary Farm at the time. But I just remember seeing like the sets that you guys had for the Baker Hotel, and like, I want to be involved with this in some way, shape, or form. So the following year, 2018, I wasn't working at Knott's Scary Farm anymore, so I had more time in my hands. So I decided I want to jump on board. I want to help out. I don't know what I'm going to help out with, but I just want to be involved in some way, shape, or form. And I'm here now, and I unfortunately this year with COVID, we're not able to have the House of Horror, but I think it's really awesome that everyone's still trying to get involved, and you guys can talk a little bit later about what we have in store for everybody. In October, we'll talk about that later, but the House of Horror is still alive and well. We're still going strong, just in a different form. So that's awesome. Now, what are some challenges that have been presented along the way with the House of Horror? Since the beginning till like now, what are some challenges that you've faced?
Oh, money. More money, how to make it better.
Like everything else, time and money.
For sure.
I think having to meet all the deadlines and the restrictions that from the school district and everything else, having to meet that's always been a challenge.
Yeah, so definitely like time and money. Cassie, and I know you've been involved with it for a long time. What are some challenges you've personally experienced that could be
well, I never had a problem getting people. I somehow have an ability to force people into it, and they end up having a great time. I don't know if you could say force, but persuade. So I always had a lot of people help out. So that I think my challenges mostly is getting the donations that we need, and staying in budget, and then also being able to manage a huge group of volunteers. So you're talking 200 volunteers and a lot of people with amazing personalities, and everybody wants to go one direction, and people want to do grandiose things, and they have amazing ideas, but then you have to bring them down, without squashing that excitement. But you have to stay within the guidelines, and you have to stay within the safety guidelines, and you want to make sure that you don't offend anybody. and you want to work with everybody. And I never said no to anybody. Everybody had a place in the group. Everybody had a talent. You know, we had people that worked a certain way and other people a different way. And I think sometimes there was some frustration trying to meet the deadlines, and just keeping everybody focused and keeping everybody positive. And then by the time, you know, it's showtime, you just have to say, you know what, I have this vision and it kind of more to do this, but this is great, you know. And you have to, at some point, you have to say, okay, I'm not going to get that boat in there, you know. I'm not, you know, at one point I think we wanted to put a car in one of the rooms, and we ended up with a motorcycle. So you know, we compromised. So you know, being able to work with a large group of volunteers and make sure that everybody is getting along and working together. And let me tell you, I saw some instances where people, you know, at first had difficulty working together, and they ended up, you know, working very well, very, very well together by you know, a couple years later, because they all respected the fact that everybody had a special talent and everybody was there for this great event and this community program that we all love. And that's why, you know, myself, I've been involved for over 10 years, even though my girls are now in college, you know. So you stay with it because you believe in it. You believe in the music program and you want it to succeed. And I believe this event really shows our community spirit, definitely.
That's awesome. Cindy, I know you were one of the founders that started it all. Were there any specific challenges that you faced trying to just get the House of Horror off the ground? Oh, I think you're muted. I'm sorry.
And you know what, I had been involved at my son's previous elementary school. So you pull, you know, I was with other parents, and once you kind of got them together, we could actually move forward. And like I said, when I said the first year begged and pleaded, is because we had no time. I mean, we had no time whatsoever. So the following year, then parents kind of saw what was going on, and they're like, we want to be involved. And then the kids said, we want to be involved. It just started, the momentum started. But you know, there was always issues, electrical issues with the school district. We didn't have, I mean, it would be hot in that gym, super hot.
Yeah, we just got
And it's still
fans.
hot. So we have fans in there. We said, okay, let's close the windows, and suffocated everybody. No, that was a joke. But I mean, we went through a lot of aches and pains, and then the school's like, don't you dare touch the floor, the walls. And you know, we've had to come with
Laying the plastic.
Yeah, laying the plastic. You know, we just,
Since day one,
we've always had obstacles, but we just have a great time. I mean, this, I have to say, being involved with the school, it allowed you to meet so many other parents. Younger, older. I mean, yes, look at me, 11 years later, and here I am with my old friends and Mrs. Carnahan, and my son's in college, and it's all about the community. And you just pull from wherever you can, and most people want to help, and they believe in the program. So that's what, you know, you do, and you just make it happen, and you overcome all the obstacles, and obstacles are just a part of it. You know, we will have them, and we just overcame them. And I think if we didn't all pull together, it would have never succeeded. I gave myself 7 years. I said, oh, if this even goes to 7 years, great. And then it kept on evolving, and, you know, Cassie came on board, and then other people, Suzanne, and there's just wonderful people that still stick with it. And then, you know, it's been a great experience. And if it wasn't because I loved Halloween, I certainly wouldn't be involved with it. And I think that's pretty much everybody, you know, it's really the adults, you know, we never grow up.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we certainly love scaring our kids. So, you know, you know, it's just a silliness. And I think that's what makes it fun for everyone.
For sure.
And I think what Cassie and Cindy were mentioning is community and passion. And I think like that is what makes the House of Horror successful. The passion of everybody involved. I mean, everyone that's working the House of Horror, it's all volunteer. You know, no one's getting paid to be out there working, you know, long hours, lots of planning goes into it, lots of long nights building it. You know, and I think that's you know, a lot of people don't see that. They see the final product, and that's awesome. But I think you also mentioned too about those relationships that get developed while you're actually working the House of Horror and getting to know people you would have never have known had you not been a part of it.
Exactly.
And I know, like, I think when parents first get involved, they're a little maybe intimidated because they feel, well, this is going to be a lot of work. I don't know if I can handle it. Some parents, I don't even like scary stuff, and they volunteer anyway, and they figure it out, and their rooms end up being great, you know. And I think like once the volunteers get past that initial hurdle of intimidation, it just becomes like they get so much support. Like there's always people that are willing to help them. What do you need for your room? What do you think about this? And I think that like you guys had mentioned, that community effort, that just because you take a room doesn't mean that you're alone and that's it. Like you figure it out
Right.
yourself. You have people to bounce ideas off of. There's builders to help you build things. And I think that's what makes it definitely less intimidating and really fun to be a part of. Suzanne, did you want to talk? Were there any challenges that you face personally?
Oh, well, like they were saying, it's definitely, besides everybody the labor of love, and you get parents. We had volunteers and people I've personally known that have nothing to do with the music program that have come and helped and brought their ideas, and they just meshed in. Over the years, especially being in the foundation and being the president and having to enforce the rules that sometimes the people building don't really want to know about. That's not the fun part. But it's necessary for us to be able to get it done and everybody to be safe. So that was probably the biggest challenge of every year, when we would have new rules that we had to abide by and then bring them to the people that were so excited and wanted to do so many fun things, like the one thing with the car, not having the car in the gym, which we were all excited about, but that was definitely not going to happen.
We tried.
But believe me, we've worked really hard to follow the rules, but be as creative as possible. So that's the fun part. So we always find a way to make it happen no matter what.
That perseverance is key, right? It's persevering.
Exactly.
You get presented a problem and we got to figure it out together. How do we get past this obstacle?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I guess another question I have is, before we get to talking about the House of Horror drive-through scavenger hunt, what would be your favorite memory or memories with being a part of the House of Horror?
Somebody always gets injured.
Yeah, every year something happens.
Somebody always gets injured.
But that's not your favorite part. Come on.
That was my favorite. You said, what are we? It's our memories.
Our memories.
Yeah,
Somebody
what do
gets
I
injured.
remember?
Well, every year we have, my favorite part is every year we have a dinner with all the volunteers after the madness is over and we've all recovered
all
from
our
the excitement and the aches and pains. And we get together and potluck and laugh about the things that we were crying just the week before, you know. So when it all gets done and put away, for me, every year is the saddest day of my year is when we lock up that bin and everything's put away. And, you know, now we've got to start all over again. But it's just, you know, for me, it's the community coming together that is my favorite. And just every year there's new volunteers, and every year you can see them develop from this, like you said, Chris, from the first meeting where they're a little bit scared to volunteer for anything. And then I start volunteering them anyway. Then next thing you know, they're taking on more and more roles and flourishing. I mean, that's the way I see it. I mean, they become part of the program at that point. I believe, you know, a lot of sixth grade parents come in and they're not quite sure how this is going to go. And for me, I was that sixth grade parent, you know, and I have no idea how much work was involved in keeping this program alive and well. And for me, it was a revelation when I saw all this parents and friends and people that really put so much work and effort and tears and blood into this event.
Literally.
And that's when I decided I want to be more part of this. You know, I want to be on the board, and I want to make sure that this program is successful.
That's awesome. Thank you, Cassie. Cindy, what's your favorite memory or memories?
Oh, they're all blurry, but you know what? It's just every.
Just throw a dart in one. Just one memory.
God, there's so
You
many.
know, it's funny because I looked at your questionnaire and I was trying to go back because first I'm like, I did 2 hallways, and then I said, you know, I moved to the front door.
God.
And the front door was never a room, but I started monitoring how many people could go through. It kind of just developed into one of those positions that we never thought of, but we needed. And I think it was just so funny that we just bring these kids in, and you know, you have different ages, right? You have the junior high, the middle school kids, the 8th graders. Oh, this isn't scary, you know, and then you have these little kids that are scared. And the best part would be when you had these 8th graders come in and they're like, oh, it's not scary. And I'm like, oh, you know, the clowns are hungry tonight, so don't be surprised. And they would come through, and some of them would just, you know, here's the thing, they'd come through again and again and again, right? Because the parents gave them money, dropped them off, and they're gonna come through this house. And then you'd see them again, and they were petrified because the friend next to them said, you should have seen this guy. This kid was like, he was holding on to me through the whole hallway because he was so scared, but he's not gonna let us know, right? And you just see the little kids, and they're petrified, you know, to go through. And I'm like thinking, it is scary, and you may not make it through. And I would be the first room, and have to take them out of the room because they can't get through. But certainly the older kids scaring them, I got a lot of enjoyment out of that. And that's why I think I stuck to the front door.
It's always fun to kind of see them running out too, like that last room, when the last room is, you know, on point, and you just see kids like falling out. They open the door and they're just like scrambling out. That's always awesome to see. So front room, back room, those are both good places to be.
Yeah, the last room's always the room. My thing is, I know it's time to go when we put that tarp up that we've had forever in the front. And I'm afraid of heights, but I put the clown on the roof and put that tarp. And once we close in those doors and that tarp's up, it's showtime. And that's probably my favorite, because you get so excited that all this work, you know everybody's going to love it, and everybody's come together and to see the final product. And I would say my all-time favorite is walking through the very last night with the crew and getting to experience all the hard work, and the kids get to scare us, and that is so much fun. It's that little celebration that we did it again.
I think for me, it's, you know, it's like planning any type of event. And it's the building. When I smell that wood being sawdust, that smell is like, here we go, you know, and I just get really, I just love that smell. I get excited. And I just seeing everybody busy at work and as a community. And that to me is the most exciting part.
I agree. You know, those are all really great memories. And I think, I don't know if it was mentioned earlier, but I think something that people don't realize is the size of the budget that we have to pull this thing off for what we do with what
budget?
or what budget. Yeah. Given the size of the budget, what we're able to pull off is amazing. And the fact that we only have 1 week to set up to build is amazing. I mean, I know some people build their sets ahead of time, like props, but as far as actually being in the gym, putting the tarp out from beginning of that to the time it's like, you know, the House of Horror starts, it's only about a week. And it's
4 hours to tear down.
Exactly. I mean, these other big haunts, they have the whole year, you know, they like Knott's Berry Farm starts building in February, you know, for an event in October. So it's amazing how much work gets done within. Well, there's work that gets done before that, but that 1 week of building, I think is pretty awesome. All right. So I know we have about 10 minutes left. So I don't know if somebody wanted to talk about our new event called the House of Horror Drive-Through Scavenger Hunt. Would anybody like to take that away? Miss Carnahan, go ahead.
Fearless leader.
Well, you know, our community needs something. You know, everybody's like down and depressed, and we need energy, and we need those creative juices.
Yeah.
And when, you know, you get these emails from alumni, and everyone's asking, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Is House of Horror Harvest Festival going to take place? And, you know, districts saying no. And so I was at a nursery a couple weeks ago, and they always have a big Halloween display. And so I started looking at it, and then I started making my phone calls. Thinking, okay, I'm walking around this nursery. I take my time as a crazy woman on a cell phone, you know, just pacing around the whole place. And just thinking out loud, you know, if I decorate my front yard, and, you know, people are driving by, and then what if other people did the same thing? So then we all started talking, and voila, you know, now we have HOH, you know, scavenger hunt drive-through. So we're meeting all the
Drive-by.
CDC restrictions, you know, we're taking care of everybody, and yeah. So we can still scare people, they can stay in their cars, but it'll be fun.
That's awesome. I mean, that's creative thinking. That's thinking outside the box right there. And I mean, to my knowledge, I mean, I think how we're setting it up, it's going to be, you know, COVID safe. We're taking all the necessary precautions for that. Did anybody else want to add a little bit about some of the more details of it, about kind of what exactly, how many houses people will be going to and so forth?
We are still collecting houses. We've got over 10 houses right now. We were trying to decide different ways of doing it, and then finishing it off with a trunk or treat, which is going to be like a drive-by, so that we're following rules, but the kids still get that same trick-or-treating type, but they get to stay in their car and experience something for that day. And I'm excited to see how many houses. We don't have a theme this year. It's pretty much everybody does what makes them happy. So I'll be excited to see all the ideas for each house and when it comes together. So it's just going to be a fun night or 2 nights. Two nights for everybody, the 16th and 17th of October.
Yeah, and I think this event's going to help get not just like the students, but everybody, the parents, teachers, excited to look forward to something. I know when I found out about the event, I was like, wow, this sounds really fun. So I'm happy to be involved with it in various ways. And I know there's a lot of people looking forward to it. So that should be fun, and details to come soon. Now, if you guys want to explain a little bit about how it's going to work with purchasing tickets? Are you going to be able to buy tickets at the location, or do you have to buy them ahead of time? And what's the link is that for that?
Good question.
Or are we
We're
still working out the
working
details?
on exactly. I mean, we do have Venmo, so it'll make it easier. So we have Venmo. They can drop off checks. I think we'll have a box by Miss Carnahan's classroom for them to drop off their orders. So we'll probably do some kind of email or something, but we haven't quite figured all the details about the ticketing. We're working on a map system. So once we know how many houses, Cassie's in charge of putting the map together and she'll map it out. We're trying to make it more like a fun puzzle map, finding house to house. But once we get it all together, I think, don't take your ribbon off now. We don't need you losing your head. So I don't know if you ever saw the video. So Miss Carnahan, they did a video like the 3rd or 4th year. And in the video were the students and Miss Carnahan, they kept asking her about her ribbon. And she pulls the ribbon and her head falls off and rolls down in the classroom. It's really hysterical. So she's got a ribbon on, keeping her head on for now.
That's awesome. Well, that's something to look forward to. Well, I think that's about time. I think time's up, but it was definitely fun catching up with you all. And I've learned a lot of stuff I didn't know about the origins of the House of Horror and just everyone's perspective. So much appreciated. I'm sure anybody watching this will find this interesting as well. So any final comments before we close out?
Thank you so much for having us and doing this and being supportive of the program for Ms. Carnahan and the kids. This is something that's definitely a love that we all have for not only the program, but for Mrs. Carnahan, and thoroughly enjoy it.
We're grateful for everybody. Just, God brings us all together.
No crying. No crying.
Well, thank you, Chris, because it takes another teacher within the school to help support, Mrs. Carnahan, because she's sort of the Lone Ranger. So it's nice to have somebody else excited and to help persuade, I think, other teachers as well, because the music program is kind of separate a little bit. So you just kind of help tie the school together with her. Mm-hmm. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, definitely, Chris. You brought a whole other dimension to the haunted house. And I think you brought with you a breath of fresh air. And it's really exciting to work with you.
For sure.
I appreciate the kind words, and I hope to be helping out with as long as this thing keeps going. Definitely this year, I told Mrs. Carnahan I'm going to be volunteering my car. I'll be decorating my car for the trunk or treat part.
Fun.
Hey.
Can't wait to see it. I'm excited.
Not quite sure what I'm going to be doing yet, but I'm sure I'll think of something. So.
I'm sure you will.
All right. Well, it's nice catching up with all of you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you all.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.